Hello, amazing people. I'm Flic. It's time to expand our minds. And today I'm going to share with you a technique that's all about keeping calm in chaos. Now, we've all experienced chaos before, and truly you'll feel like you're going to experience it again many, many times in your life because you will. It's just a fact of being human. But the interesting thing about our human brains and bodies is that as smart and as evolved and as wonderful as we actually are, there's a couple of things that haven't evolved to quite where we're at in our lives today. And this is why so often we find ourselves in a scenario of chaos, and it kicks off this whole string of effects on our mind and body that are not particularly productive and are definitely not helpful. So I'm going to teach you today a technique that's really sustainable, really adaptive, and is going to help you in any scenario where your brain is perceiving chaos. Now, before I do that, let's talk a little bit more about chaos and what it does to the brain itself. So chaos, for example, could be just about anything. It could be a stressful work situation that you find yourself in. It could be managing, a play date with your kids at home and you're feeling a bit like you need all the arms of an octopus to manage the toys and the screaming and the running and everything else that is going on. Regardless of what kind of chaos you're experiencing, your brain is going to respond to it as a potential life threat, even if it's not. We just haven't quite evolved to the point yet where our brain can, in a hundredth of a second, decide whether or not we are actually safe. So its default position by evolutionary design is to treat it as a threat. As a result, you're going to find yourself in fight, flight, freeze, or fawn way more often than you actually need to be. And that actual mode itself makes it really difficult for you to think things through clearly, to make decisions, to move things from short to long-term memory, and to control your emotions. That's a pretty obvious one for most people. You might find yourself feeling really frustrated, very, very edgy when people are trying to talk to you. It's difficult to take on feedback. All of these kinds of things are usually a sign that you are in fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. Therefore, it's not very helpful at work. It's definitely not very helpful at home. And there are some flow-on effects for your well-being that aren't great. For example, it shuts off your immune system. So this is why you very often will get sick after you have felt that you've been in a chaotic situation. So it's not ideal across the board. So this technique, as I said, that I'm sharing with you today is going to help you to remove yourself from that scenario while still actually remaining in the chaotic environment that triggered it in the first place. I think of this as an absolute superpower, really, and it's something that we can all do, and it's really, really simple. It's all about taking the focus away from the front and putting it on to the back. So this is a little thing about fight, flight, freeze, or fawn that not too many people know much about. So I'm going to share that with you before we kick into the technique. Now, when we go into fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, our body and our brain remains extremely front focused. It's a fantastic reflection of what's actually going on in terms of the instructions that the brain is giving the body. So it becomes really, really narrow field. Everything becomes very, very siloed, and our limbs and everything want to remain front and ready to deal with whatever this potential threat, this chaos, is bringing forward. Now, of course, that's not ideal either because you need to be able to tell what's going on behind you. As a result, what's happening is when you do hear a sound behind you, you don't just turn your head slightly, you will actually shift your entire body, sometimes jumping into position to meet the potential threat face on. So in order to bring yourself out of chaos and into calm, we need to remove the front focus, and instead we want to be thinking about our back. I know, it's actually surprisingly simple. So this is actually how it works. You find yourself in that chaotic scenario, you've got all of the feelings, everything's becoming more difficult for you to manage, regardless of whether you're sitting, standing, moving, where you are. I want you to start thinking about the back of your head. You want to visualize it, get into granular detail if you can. Think about the texture of your hair. If you've got hair, think about the texture of your skin. And as you start to be able to focus on the back of your head, you're then going to move down to the back of your neck, then to your shoulder blades, the middle of your back, lower back, your bottom, thighs, calves, and heels. So you're going to do all of your back from top to bottom. Now, if you have been in this chaos scenario for a little while, let's say you've been, sitting at your desk, stressing and stressing and stressing for a couple of hours. Well, what you're going to then do is find that you may need to repeat this technique more than once. Your brain may offer up a little resistance at first because you need to convince it that there's no reason for it to stay in fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. So you'll repeat the technique thinking about the back of your head all the way down to the back of your heels. And eventually what will happen is your brain will get the message that actually there's nothing for me to be front focused about. There's no threat here. There's no chaotic scenario that I need to be responding to as a life threat. And it will move you back into a calm and regulated state so that you can start to think clearly, make decisions, do all the things you need to do, and to regulate those emotions, which will also keep your immune system online. So that's really it. It's as simple as that. What we want to do every time we encounter chaos is we want to stop thinking about the front and start thinking about the back until we actually start to feel calm. And it really only takes about 60 seconds for most people. So as I said, super sustainable, really adaptable. You can do it anywhere. You don't have to be in a quiet space. You don't even have to shut your eyes to make this work. So very, very simple. I'm sure you're going to find thousands of ways to use this in your everyday life and in your professional life as well. And I really encourage you to share this with as many people as you can. But remember that your knowledge can only become your power when you apply it. So get out there, apply it as often as you can, make it a normal part of your routine. Your brain, your body, everything will benefit from it so much. Thank you so much for joining me today. I've really enjoyed sharing this technique with you. Remember to like, subscribe, share this video with your friends, your colleagues, anyone that you can. I'm Flic Manning. Until next time.